All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our next lesson here. This is the trial stage, 2019 to 2020. So, objectives and standards. You will be able to explain the steps in a trial, and you will be able to identify rights guaranteed to Americans in the criminal trial process. Take a moment there to look over the standards. Sorry about the squiggly kind of crazy shape here I'm trying to make again as usual. Go ahead and look at them, please. And desired result. How does the trial stage work in the American justice system? So I want you to be thinking about the different steps and the different processes that take place in the trial system in the in the trial stage, I should say, in the American justice system. Sorry about that. So be thinking about the different steps, the different procedures, and things that happen during a trial. Okay, so criminal justice and the trial stage. Due process or fair procedures during a trial are basic rights set out under the U.S. Constitution for Americans. When a person is accused of a crime, they are entitled to have a trial by jury with undue delay. Sorry about the check mark there. They are also to be informed of their rights and the charges against them. An accused person also has the right to an attorney, to confront and cross-examine witnesses, and to not testify against themselves. And all these steps allow for a fair trial. We're going to take a look at some of these in closer detail here in just a little bit. So, trial by jury. Americans are guaranteed the right to a trial by jury under the Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. However, as we talked about, a lot of crimes don't go to trial because in criminal cases, because people take plea deals or plea bargains to reduce their sentencing or their punishment sometimes. Now, when they do go to trial, there are a couple things that do happen. One of the things is a trial by jury. And a jury is not required in minor criminal offenses that require a sentence of less than 6 months in a correctional facility. Defendants can also choose to waive or give up their right to a trial by jury, and trials can be heard by a judge in what is known as a bench trial. So if you are accused of a crime and you have to go to trial, hopefully you never are charged with such a crime, but you can choose to give up a right to a trial by jury if you think a judge may make a better decision about that, and that is called a bench trial. Selecting a jury. I think I've told some of you already that I was on a jury earlier in this year, so some of these steps I went through as well. People are chosen for juries from voter registration information, tax list, or driver's license rolls, and represent the local community. Federal juries consist of 12 jurors, but many states also follow this rule for trials. Now, a minimum of 6 jurors are required under the U.S. Constitution for trials, but again, most courts at the federal level and the state level do follow a jury of 12 members. Those selected for a federal jury must come to a unanimous decision if a person is guilty or not guilty, and most states also require a unanimous decision for criminal cases, but the rule is not required under the U.S. Constitution. So in other words, the U.S. Constitution doesn't say, oh, the jury has to come to a unanimous decision, and some states do allow a jury to maybe come up with a split decision. But again, most cases, most crimes, the jury has to be unanimous in their decision. Now, jurors are selected by the lawyers for both sides, the prosecution and the defense, in a process known as voir dire. Again, I'm trying my best with that word. And this is when potential jurors are asked questions to see who are the quote-unquote best fit for the trial. So they ask you questions whether you have bias about a certain person, do you have discrimination against certain people, how do you feel about certain crimes or certain penalties like the death penalty. And I was asked similar questions like that when I was on the jury that I was on, was asked different questions about how I felt about this or that, would I be biased because of this or that reason. So they do ask questions to try and find the best jury for that case that they want to make a decision. A speedy and public trial. People are also guaranteed the right to a speedy trial in all criminal cases under the Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. No time limit is set by the U.S. Constitution, but the federal government and some states have set a limit on when a case can be brought before a court. Okay? A case may be dismissed if a person does not receive a speedy trial. Sometimes a defendant may waive their right to a speedy trial so their lawyer can work to gather evidence and witnesses. So some people might say, hey, I don't want to go to trial next week because my lawyer is still working on getting evidence together or witnesses together to prove I'm innocent or not guilty. So sometimes they might waive their right to a speedy trial and want to postpone their trial for a little bit so they have a better chance at defending themselves. Compulsory process and confronting witnesses. A compulsory process, for obtaining witnesses is also allowed to defendants. Witnesses may be required to appear in court to testify through a subpoena or a court order. Okay, I was actually called this way as well in a court, a trial, to be a witness for somebody, a character witness to stand up for them and defend them a little bit. So I received a subpoena to do that. I had to show up at the courthouse, at the courtroom or whatever on a certain day and a certain time. And if you don't show up, you can be arrested for not doing so. So you can be subpoenaed to show up and testify. People also have the right to confront witnesses or others against them and to cross-examine them, not them directly, but their lawyer, obviously. If a person becomes disruptive or disorderly, they may be removed or cited for contempt of court. They may also be bound or gagged in extreme circumstances. That's why I put that picture up there. Children may not be forced to be in or testify in court in certain cases, such as abuse or sexual abuse or things like that. Due to emotions, cameras may be placed in another room and the child may be questioned there instead. So a child might be questioned in a separate room from the courthouse, and it's then broadcast in for the judge and the jury and others to see and hear. But, obviously we don't want to upset children or make children nervous if they have to testify about what they saw or heard, or had happened to them. So this is just one way that they're trying to protect children as well. Okay, self-incrimination and immunity. The right to not testify against themselves, or what is called self-incrimination, is a freedom protected under the Fifth Amendment. So, a person is not required to take the stand and answer questions about a crime they are accused of. This is called pleading the Fifth. You might see this in TV shows or movies or whatever. They might say, oh, I plead the Fifth. That means they're using the Fifth Amendment to not have to answer questions that may make them look guilty or incriminate themselves, okay? Now, the person accused of a crime may also take the stand and answer questions. Sorry about trying to write my best there. And answer questions if he or she wants to. There's nothing that says a person does or does not have to do this, okay? It all depends if the person wants to and if their lawyer, I should say, recommends that. Defendants do not have to answer inappropriate questions, and their lawyer may, quote-unquote, object to the question. Or you might see this in courtroom shows or movies where they stand up and say, objection, right? And the judge will say, sustained, meaning that the question cannot be asked or it has to be asked a different way, or overruled, which means that, the question can still be asked. Immunity may also be granted to witnesses who testify against a defendant. I saw this in the trial I was a juror on, that they had people involved who were kind of in connection with this crime, and because these people testified against this person, they were given immunity. They were not allowed to be charged with the crime because they were testifying against the person. So this means that they cannot be prosecuted on any information they provide, even if the information connects to a crime, okay? So sometimes you might hear somebody say, oh, I was given immunity for testifying against that person. I couldn't be charged with a crime, or they couldn't be charged with a crime because of that. Okay, attorneys and criminal appeals. If a person cannot afford their own lawyer, they are protected under the U.S. Constitution. A lawyer will be appointed by the court at no cost to the defendant, and these are known as public defenders. Now, sometimes public defenders, they are criticized by the public for not serving their clients well. Some people feel that, they don't work as hard because they're not hired privately or paid more money to represent this person. But again, this is a situation that some lower income people may find themselves in, is with a public defender. Okay, but still, they still have a lawyer who will defend them, which is protected by the Constitution. When a defendant is found guilty or not guilty of a crime by a jury, this may end the case. However, a prosecutor or a defense attorney may try to have the case heard again through a criminal appeal. This means that a person can be tried again in a court by a different judge and or jury, okay? Now, however, a person cannot be prosecuted again for the same crime. That's known as double jeopardy. They can't be tried for the same crime if they were found not guilty of that, or found guilty of that. So that's something that's also protected to American citizens, is to not be convicted under double jeopardy or the same crime that they were found not guilty of or guilty of. Okay? Now, our closure here. How does the trial stage work in the American justice system? Think about all the different rights and protections that are guaranteed to people in a criminal trial, and think about the steps that kind of happen. Selection of a jury, self-incrimination, not pleading the fifth, but pleading the fifth to not self-incriminate yourself. Also the appeal process and the right to an attorney. These are all steps that take place, or all things that take place during the trial stage in the American justice system. All right? So please try your best on the questions that follow, and let me know if you need any help or have any questions or concerns, and I hope to talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.